Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Maximizing Industry Potential Manufacturing Innovation Institutes. And my name is Brian Tucker. I'm with the University of Alabama in Huntsville, and we're the lead organization for the Alabama Defense Advanced Manufacturing community. And we certainly appreciate you all being here and our panelists sharing on their institutes today. Before we get started, I did want to cover a little bit of housekeeping on navigating GoToWebinar. I know a lot of these, we have so many different meeting and webinar platforms, and each of them are a little bit different. But you can click on the your control panel has several drop-down sections. There's audio, questions, and handouts. Just clicking on the audio drop-down, you can change your audio capabilities. Currently, everyone that has joined is muted for questions. We're going to start off with letting you type those in and capture those so that we can cover those between each of the two presentations. And we'll see how things go. We may open that up to unmute and let you raise your hand and ask questions, time permitting, at the end. There's also a handouts drop down, and that is where the slides are available, both presentations from each of the institutes, as well as the slides that we have here for links and other information that you may need. If for some reason you have something blocked or something that doesn't allow you to download from GoToWebinar, you can email me directly. You've got my email address there on that slide. The email that you've been getting the invites from our office, you can email that, or you can go to the ADAMC website and contact us through there as well. So you should be able to get to us to let us know if you need anything. So real quick, I want to share just a little bit about ADAMC. First of all, I'm going to start with the who. There's a lot of organizations involved in our defense manufacturing community. Certainly wouldn't be here without the Office of Local Defense Community and Cooperation. I think the office with the longest acronym in the DoD. So congratulations to them. We certainly appreciate their partnership. We've been working with OLDCC for several years. A lot of other organizations, underlined organizations there, what we call our sort of founding partners, but it covers the gamut of nonprofits, academia from multiple levels, municipal workforce development, and large and small industry. And there in the middle, you see the engagement that we've had with manufacturing innovation institutes at various levels as part of our ADMC, and that's the main reason we're here today. So what are we trying to accomplish? So the vision for ADMC, which I'm sure is consistent with a lot of what you guys hope for related to manufacturing and the defense industrial base, is industry that's knowledgeable of these technologies and capabilities and is applying them to increasingly improve their operation. Workforce and a pipeline that is skilled, and a workforce that is educated and employed. And that we see manufacturing, and specifically advanced manufacturing, as a preferred career path. And then technologies being developed and utilized or augmented to address the challenges related to national security and other national interests as well. And then, so how do we do it? We've got three thrust areas, which again are probably consistent with a lot of your initiatives. Workforce development, again, that pipeline of workforce that's educated, employed, and pursuing manufacturing. Technology adoption from an industry perspective, and then again the development of technology. And as we started moving out in these thrust areas, some of the feedback we were getting from what are our goals and how do we accomplish this, sort of three things kept resonating and coming to the surface. One was presence. We need to be with industry. We need to be getting to industry, ideally to them directly as we can, but certainly giving them access to or accessing them through webinars like this. Perception, which we've kind of touched on, is making sure that that manufacturing is perceived as a career path of choice. It's not dark, dirty, and dangerous. And that's not just folks in going through the education pathways, but it's all those people that are around them that influence their decisions they make. and then promotion not only of manufacturing, but more specifically about what's available to industry. And those two things, that presence and that promotion, kind of leads to what we're doing here today. Is we wanted to make sure that industry was aware of the awesome work that's being done on the national level by the DoD Manufacturing Innovation Institutes. And so that born out of that was this opportunity to present that today. And we've got two webinars, one today that you're attending here, and there's another one tomorrow where there's two more institutes that'll be sharing America Makes and MXD. So for today, again, we've got, and glad to have NextFlex and ARM presenting. And I am going to introduce our presenters, but while I do that, I am going to go ahead and hand over the controls to Courtney, and you should be able to do that now. But presenting for NextFlex are Dr. Art Wall. He is the Director of Engineering and Fab Operations, where he manages the technology hub, which houses the processes and tools for flexible hybrid electronics development prototyping. He has vast industry experience. Part of that includes being the co-founder and vice president of Nuvisun, an innovative photovoltaic company that was acquired by Dow Chemicals. Also has experience with IBM and Hitachi Global Storage Technologies. He has a PhD and Master's of Science from University of Minnesota, and has co-authored over 30 articles, presented over 20 conferences, and holds 7 U.S. patents. So thank you, Dr. Art Wall. And also presenting from NextFlex is Courtney Power. She's the Deputy Director of Workforce Development. And before I read her bio, I meant to say this earlier. We've NextFlex has had a lot of engagement in our community for years. They work closely with several community colleges and are growing that, and she'll probably talk about that. And so we appreciate their partnership, and they've been really engaged in their Flex Factor program and even their Flex to Mill program in the area. And so in Courtney's role, she's responsible for the strategic implementation and expansion of NextFlex suite of learning programs. She's a graduate in Bachelor's of Biochemistry from the U.S. Air Force Academy, and a Master's in Chemistry from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. And after serving in the Air Force on active duty, and thank you for your service, Courtney, she transitioned to work in education, encouraging underserved students to consider STEM careers and pathways. And as you'll see, she's very passionate about building the talent needed in the future to support the defense and organic industrial base. So thank you both for being here today, and we look forward to hearing from you.
All right, well, thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be with you here today and give an opportunity to tell you a little bit about NextFlex. So you can go to the next slide. It is always my pleasure and my obligation to remind everybody that we are a Department of Defense supported manufacturing institute through 2 cooperative agreements that I'll describe a little bit later. And primarily our contracting goes through the Air Force Research Laboratory. Next slide, please. Now, as you start to look at the institutes, and you're going to hear from at least 4 of us now today and tomorrow, which is great. I always like to look at this map of all the institutes and see how they're distributed around the nation. It's also really cool to take a look and see all the wide variety of application spaces that people are working on to bring about manufacturing capability within the United States. Everything from integrated photonics to tissue biofabrication, wide bandgap semiconductors. And then there's us out here on the West Coast in Silicon Valley, NextFlex, where our focus is on flexible hybrid electronics. And I'll describe our definition of that as we go along. Before I go, though, I think it's also worthwhile as you're looking at these institutes to understand that all of these have 3 shared principles or 3 shared goals that are common across all of the network. First is to advance the manufacturing and technology processes to full-scale production in whatever area they might be focused on, to create a robust ecosystem around that technology in the United States, and to secure human capital. And you'll hear from Courtney about that work that we're doing. Next slide, please. So won't bore you with all these statistics, but here's some background on us. We've been around since 2015. We are located out here in San Jose, California. If you get the chance to come visit San Jose, we're located pretty close to the airport. Come on by and I'll show you around. Our total facility is a little over 30,000 square feet, with 11,000 of that being dedicated to lab and fab. We have 94 members and almost 70 DoD organizations, or sorry, should say government organizations engaged, both DoD and other government agencies. We have 3 regional hubs in New York, Massachusetts, and Missouri. And then a lot of different workforce partners, companies, colleges, and K through 12 districts that are really, really key to our success. I won't read through all of the numbers down below, but we do support a large number of projects, both in terms of project calls and agency-driven projects. And I'm happy to spend more time if anybody wants to know more about those, but the funding stream is really robust and a lot of fun. Go to the next slide. So what is this flexible hybrid electronics? So we think of it as this marriage of 2 things. We use printing or additive processing together with novel substrates, things like PET or polyimide or flexible kinds of plastic, things that end up looking like this. So very thin plastic things printed on both sides with various types of printing methodologies. So we create these circuits in this additive way. We're eliminating lithography, we're eliminating etching, we're eliminating a lot of the waste stream that's associated with a typical printed circuit board type technology. But then we marry that with thin semiconductor die. We get wafers and we get them thinned down to 50 microns or less. And when you do that, the semiconductor, be it silicon or whatever it might be, becomes flexible as well. So we can put those on in a flip chip fashion as shown there, directly attaching into the ink that we've cured there and created the circuit, and create new types of devices. The first thing is flexible devices. See that circle there? That's where we originated. And again, this is kind of stuff like this, and that's great. And we can do some really cool things, and we'll talk about some of the applications here in a minute. But recently, as in the last couple of years, we started to realize that what really makes us unique is the additive part of it. And when you use the additive part, you don't actually have to use that thin plastic substrate. You can, but you don't have to. You're not married to that. So you can do some other things with this technology, such as structural and conformal electronics. Imagine printing electronics on the wing of an aircraft or something crazy like that. Also using additive and advanced packaging. You'll hear a lot about the CHIPS program in the press these days, and there's a whole piece of that investment that's aimed at advanced packaging, and we're going to play in that space. And that also involves heterogeneous integration. We take multiple different chips and put them together in different combinations to come up with new devices. It's worth mentioning down here at the bottom that the creation of NextFlex really changed the trajectory of printed electronics. Before NextFlex, people were imagining they're going to print everything, every transistor, every resistor, everything. Well, it's kind of silly if you think about it. So that's why we incorporated this hybrid part of it, which is we take advantage of modern advanced semiconductor capability with thin chips. Go to the next slide. So that's the what. Now here's the why. So why do you want to do this stuff? Well, you can do some really amazing things. It really is game changing. You start on the left-hand side. You can imagine now printed circuit boards or PCBs that are 100% additive instead of, again, a large waste stream and all this other things that come along with today's traditional PCB manufacturing. Can create impossible form factors. I already showed you flexible, but you can actually even make electronics that's stretchable. Imagine putting electronics into clothing, for example, or 3-dimensional. We use low temperature manufacturing processes, and what that does for us, it allows us to use materials that typically aren't associated with electronic packaging. Things like biomaterials, TPU, PET, all those sorts of things. In fact, we did a recent commercial project where the substrate was paper. In the upper right, digital process flow, this is great because in particular, it allows us to operate in an economic, high mix, low volume production, which is really where DoD wants us to be. These devices end up being very robust and very lightweight. We've taken a lot of the weight out of these things. So for things like SWaP-C, if that's important to you. And then lastly, it's cost effective because we're taking a lot of process steps out of it. And again, I've said this already, but one more time, because it's all additive and we're not etching and we're not doing lithography and all those other things, it's very environmentally friendly. There's actually a study out from a Japanese company called Elephant Tech where they estimated that the amount of waste is reduced by a factor of 10 and the amount of power is also reduced by a factor of 10. Go to the next slide. So that was the what and the why. Here's kind of the how. This is how we make this happen. So at the top, all of these institutes kind of at their core, they're a consortium. between our members and our government partners. We've got 188 members there. To the right of that, regular communications. We do webinars, we do workshops. In fact, webinars is kind of interesting. We have on average 2 webinars every single week, and I'll describe where that comes from here in a second. Below that, there are 11 technical working groups. This is made up of our members, our government people, and academia, and they create 5-year roadmaps in their particular area of expertise. Now that not only validates the market needs, but it also informs the next thing as we go around the map, which are the project calls. While we're doing these working groups and these roadmaps, we identify what are the problems that need to be solved. So far to date, we've invested $136 million into solving those problems through our members and partners. Now that's interesting too, because it goes back up into the communication. When an organization or group of organizations get together and solve these problems, they're required to report out once a quarter to all of the other members, here's what we did, here's what we found, here's our results. And that's where the webinars come from. And so it's a really fantastic cycle of learning that's shared by everybody. In the lower left corner, you're going to hear Courtney talk about this. You know, as I said before, securing human capital is key to all of the institutes. We're very proud of the work that we've done here at NextFlex. We have a nationwide program. We're in 13 states with over 15,000 students that have gone through, and we're just getting started. Finally, in the upper left is where I come in. When NextFlex was proposed, one of the things was that we said we would do is, rather than just being in the middle of all of this activity, we want to be a participant. So we built our own fab facility here in San Jose, and that's what I do. I manage the engineering and fab group, and we can do design and prototyping services for any interested party. So call me if you want to work with us. Next slide, please. Okay, so if you really get involved and you want to be a member of NextFlex, what are the things that you'd gain out of that? Those technical working groups, we encourage all of our members to be a participant in the technical working groups. This is where you really get to work side by side with other members, figure out who's doing what, who knows what, and who to call when you have questions or problems, and be a contributor into the overall ecosystem. We have an online member portal. I literally am on there every day. There's so much information up there, and it's very nice site that's graphically oriented and searchable. So all of that information that we talked about, going back to the original project call years ago, all that information is available to the members. There is the project call funding, which is available to our members. Actually, you don't have to be a member to propose, but you do have to be a member because of the IP policy to participate. Speaking of IP, if you're a member, when people do generate IP during this process, as a member, you receive royalty-free internal use evaluation license to develop and understand that capability and that technology. Now, if you want to commercialize it, obviously you have to go back to the owner of the IP, which is the people that did the work, to create a license agreement there. And finally, networking and events. I saved it for last, but it's actually one of the things that keeps popping up when we ask our members what's really critical and important to them. Understanding and meeting other members, the complementary capability and objectives, technical events, technical working group members, and all of those sorts of things. Next slide, please. This is a little bit about that technology hub that I manage. It is a clean room. That's a class 10,000 clean room. It's sheet to sheet based. We're not roll to roll flexible kind of stuff because we're very focused on high mix and low volume. We are manufacturing capability though. We have printing and assembly tools that are full-blown manufacturing tools. There are also some unique tools in development for printing, assembly, and inspection. We are ITAR compliant and we are FDA good manufacturing practices compliant. There's a lot of medical applications for this technology. Oh, by the way, if you want to see something fun and in a video format, there's a couple of sites listed down there at the bottom. To be honest, the easiest way is just go to YouTube, type in NextFlex Virtual Fab Tour, and you'll see a couple of videos up there that'll get you up close and personal with what it's like in the fab. Go to the next slide. Okay, so just a little bit of historical perspective on how we've developed this technology. The left-hand side is very much a historical roadmap of how we keep adding capabilities, and we keep adding more manufacturing capabilities as we start to understand at high volume, what will the cost be? What is the productivity necessary to do this? And how do you get to high yield? But all of that work on the left side was really to get to the right-hand side, to get to application developments where you're building prototypes of actual products people want. I'm going to use two examples here. At the top, the Air Force Research Lab came to us and said, hey, we really need a device to help us monitor the environment to make sure that some of our maintenance technicians are safe when they're in confined spaces. And so we built this integrated wearable gas sensor. It's actually going through another rev of work to make it pass through what's called intrinsic safety. Another example is NASA, down there, number 3. Not everything we do for the government is for DoD. We're working on a project there called AstroSense. This is actually a device that will be worn by the astronauts to monitor their health, but the coolest part of it is they'll be able to print that in space. So we're working with a company called NScript to develop the capability and technology, and that'll be transferred up to the International Space Station where they'll actually demonstrate this thing in space. By the way, it's not all government related. Number 5 is actually for a small company called Aptima, which came to us and needed and wanted to work on machine health monitoring. Even though it came from a small company like that, the Navy saw it and said, we want that. So that's what we're doing now. Go to the next slide. All right, and this is where I'm going to hand it off to Courtney.
So I'll take it from here. Thanks, Art. So Art talked a lot about our national span and the access that you can have there in Silicon Valley. And the offer does stand. If you are in San Jose, please do come by. We would love to show you around our facility for its unique capabilities. But what's important to you probably is what's happening in your region and how we're working in Alabama and the greater southeast of the United States. And so this map is just a little snippet of our partners and collaborators in your region. So as you can see, we have everything from DoD stakeholders, other government agencies, to industry partners, research, university, community colleges, and education nonprofits. And all of this is really going back to that goal that we first talked about of building and maturing the ecosystem. We acknowledge none of us stand alone in a silo, and it's really important that the work we do is collaborative and synergistic, and that's really an ultimate goal and a member benefit that comes from joining NextFlex or another MII. So specifically with education and workforce development, as Brian alluded to when he introduced us, we've been doing a lot of work in Alabama. Specifically, we have partnerships with John C. Calhoun Community College, Drake State Technical College, and Trenholm State Community College. So 2 schools in Huntsville and the 3rd in Montgomery, Alabama. And really leveraging our K-12 outreach and engagement program called Flex Factor to connect the next generation of your employees that are sitting in classrooms today with what a career in advanced manufacturing could look like. So just a short call to action. There are ways for you to be involved as an industry partner or an academic partner in these Flex Factor programs, really to help students see that manufacturing is not dirty, dark, and dangerous. They need to be able to see it with their own eyes. And so opening your facilities or being a guest speaker or a panelist or a judge is a great way to do that. And so as you can see, we are impacting the students there. Just this data from Calhoun Community College from the school year 22-23 showed that 82% of students after participating in Flex Factor were more aware of those career opportunities to them, and 83% had a better understanding of the education pathways like Calhoun Community College that are right in their backyard that can get them where they want to be. So we're going to close really quickly because we want to make sure Emma has plenty of time to talk about ARM, but our membership and our capability of the consortium exists to create a vibrant community organized to collaborate and build synergy to really grow that ecosystem and to grow U.S. manufacturing as we onshore and reshore our capability to secure our national defense and our economic futures. Our approach is integrated. We have project calls, we have agency-driven projects, we have all of those webinars, sharing IP policy, and really things that are designed to help benefit you as an individual member. And our EWD portfolio is designed to help grow the talent that you are going to need in the future as you continue to grow and succeed. So Art and I welcome you to please reach out and contact us at any time if you have any more questions. And I'll turn it back over to Brian.
Great, thank you very much. I will share my screen here. So do have a couple of questions. One is, both of you kind of alluded to these project calls, and I think, Art, you said that non-members could even propose. Can you kind of walk through how those work just a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So so once a year, we'll assemble usually kind of between 6 and 10 specific problems that we need to solve. We'll give some background in terms of, like, these are sort of the way we think that we want to see these things resolved. or at least what we want to see at the end. That's sort of the end state of the project. And then typically what will happen is a number of organizations will gather together and write a proposal together. Usually it works a little bit better that way if you got maybe a materials company together with a university, together with a company like Lockheed or Boeing is oftentimes a really great combination. They then will submit their proposals to us. They are evaluated in a very rigorous peer review process, and there is a winner declared. So let's say there's a particular project that might be, we might have $700,000 to go solve that problem. It does require cost share. So if you're going to accept $700,000 worth of federal money, you need to come up with an equivalent $700,000 of collectively within that group of companies. And then they're awarded, and we help to make sure that the contracts are all signed properly, and then we guide people through these various projects, and then report it all back out to our members. So it is a publicly aware process. There's an example of Iowa State was not a member, but collaborated with a number of other organizations that are members, and did win in a project called 8, a submission just recently. So they're now a member.
Great. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
We do have a couple other questions that have come in. One is, do you guys provide, or is there a process for help and consulting expertise for grants? So someone looking at maybe pursuing grants, is there some assistance you guys provide with that?
Yeah, we have participated on grant proposals in the past. So, typically that's aimed at our members. It's kind of viewed as sort of a member benefit to be able to consult with us, and we can provide some guidance into maybe you want to go a little bit this way or this way. And sometimes we've actually, as I said, we've participated directly as a participant.
And from an education and workforce development perspective as well, we are collaborators, specifically in the Alabama Defense Advanced Manufacturing Consortium, but also in the Mississippi SHIPS Advanced or Defense Manufacturing Consortium. So we are participants and players in a lot of different programs, and would be happy to have a continued conversation if there's an EWG effort that you're looking at using some of NextFlex's resources as tools.
Great. One more quick question. I think we'll move on to ARM, but the question was around members. Is there support provided to support or assistance provided to members in terms of research and development and market access?
Yes, I think a good example is that I field, I don't know how many calls per week from members who will call for all kinds of reasons. They might call and say, hey, I'm thinking about buying a particular piece of capital equipment, and I want your assistance and your guidance into whether this is a proper thing for the application I have. Or maybe I'm already a participant and I'm building these things, but I run into a yield problem and I need some help there. So whether it's a, CapEx question and sometimes it's even something that we can't answer. They might call up and say, I need help with this particular thing. I don't know, but I know who to ask. So then a lot of times our executive director likes to call us marriage brokers. We'll actually find the right people that can help you.
Great. Well, thank you both. I think you guys are going to stay on. We may have some questions in general about the institutes, and some maybe more directly related to you guys. We've got one in the hopper, I know, but I wanted to let Emma have a chance to speak here. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Emma. And while she's getting set, again, Emma is the Education and Workforce Development Partnership Manager for the ARM Institute, where she leads grant opportunity identification, grant bid process, teaming activities, with collaboration and subcontractors. Also, she facilitates all aspects of education, workforce development, regional and community outreach, with the goal of building impactful programs across the ARM Institute ecosystem. She has been with the Institute since 2022, coming from Forbes Funds, a philanthropic foundation in Pittsburgh, where she managed $500,000 grant portfolio and co-created capacity building solutions for Allegheny County nonprofits. Prior, she worked for federal contractors in DC, managing multi-million-dollar proposals and projects for the U.S. Agency of International Development and the Department of State. Her career has also been driven by working collaboration with under-resourced communities to address systemic issues. She holds a master's in public administration from University of Pittsburgh and a bachelor in economics from Smith College. So again, welcome and thank you, Emma.
Thanks, Brian. Happy to be here today. And thank you for the introduction. We love to have this slide as our background for the ARM Institute. You can see a little bit that the exoskeleton of our building is an original J&L steel mill from Pittsburgh steel making days, and we've built our office building inside of that. So I think that this is a really great representation of how the ARM Institute plays into Pittsburgh's industrial past and Pittsburgh's robotics future. We were established 6 years ago by Carnegie Mellon University. As I mentioned, we're headquartered in Pittsburgh, and of course, we're one of 17 national Manufacturing USA institutes, one of 9 funded by the Department of Defense. Like many of the other institutes, we are a public-private partnership. We have over 400 members across industry and academia and government that represent the entire robotics and advanced manufacturing ecosystem. We've funded about 150 projects to date in both technology and workforce development, where we fund our members to help develop solutions to technology and workforce development problems in the advanced manufacturing and defense space. And we manage about $100 million of US government investments, including our major initial funding grant, some smaller grants from the Department of Labor and the Department of Commerce as well. And just to touch a little bit more on our initial history as the ARM Institute. So you can see in the upper left-hand corner, that's the original steel mill site. And then that closed about 40 years, just short of 40 years ago. And for most of my life, at least, it's looked like that middle top picture where we were just an abandoned brownfield and a bunch of foundations got together in Pittsburgh and pooled their resources with some economic development funding as well, maintained that steel structure, like I said, and then we opened in 2009. The facility opened in November of 2019, and of course, 4 months later, COVID happened, and so it's only really been in the last year since I've been with the ARM Institute that we've actually been able to utilize our space and build it out. So our mission is to accelerate the development and adoption of innovative robotics technologies that are the foundation of all advanced manufacturing activity today and into the future. We leverage a unique and robust, diverse ecosystem of partners to help make robotics, autonomy, and artificial intelligence more accessible to the US manufacturing base that Courtney mentioned. We, as a conglomerate, are trying to build up. We're focused on training and empowering the manufacturing workforce, both the existing workers who are already working in the manufacturing space may need help transitioning to an advanced manufacturing skill set, getting more young adults interested, and then also, as Courtney talked about, getting kids interested in robotics and seeing themselves in manufacturing and seeing the future that that could be for them. Strengthening US economy and global competitiveness, and of course, as a Department of Defense funded institute, national security and resilience are key to our mission as well. This is a snapshot of some of our major members. You'll see that there's a lot of Department of Defense contractors on there. Our local manufacturing extension partnership, Catalyst Connection, is on there. We have local universities, national universities, lots of community colleges as well. So our consortium enables broad industry road mapping. We try to get competitors to work together on some of our tech projects across silos to really leverage the collaborative. We're introducing lots of new industry expertise to help solve government problems. And then there's also a cost share between the government, industry, and academia as well. So it's a really great mind meld of government, industry, academia, local community nonprofits as well. And I will just make a plug here that our annual member meeting is coming up in 3 short weeks. We have it here in Pittsburgh every November, and that's an opportunity to get together with other members. And it's 3 days of presentations about what our members have been working on for the last year. We give new members or startup members that are maybe just starting out as new businesses the opportunity to share more information with our consortium about what they're doing and the work that they're doing. So it's a really great opportunity. And if you are a nonprofit or an institute of higher education, it is free to become a member. So if you have any interest in spending a few days in November in Pittsburgh, I would welcome you to join us in a few weeks to see what we're all about. We're recognized by national leadership. On the far left here, you see Joe Biden came to visit us in the fall, I think, shortly after he was inaugurated. We were joined by the U.S. Secretary of Labor here as well. And in that middle large picture there, you see a nice picture of our high bay where we had an inaugural meeting of the United States European Union Trade and Technology Council meeting. That high bay can no longer be used for space because with our Build Back Better grant that we've received that I will talk a little bit about, we filled that whole high bay with robots and training cages as well. So we will not be holding any big meetings in there anymore because we've built it out so that it's a functional space that can be used on a regular basis. So speaking about Build Back Better, the ARM Institute received $14 million in funding as part of a $62 million Build Back Better award from the Economic Development Agency. That went to Southwestern Pennsylvania as a whole, the entire 10-county region. There are 5 projects under it that I can't really speak to because they're very broad ranging, but basically we're trying to establish Southwestern Pennsylvania as a robotics and manufacturing hub. And so there's business incubators that are part of that. There's an entire project that's just focused on workforce development and getting people trained in these jobs. But the big piece that the ARM Institute is working on that I think is of most interest to the audience here today is that first piece, the Regional Robotics Manufacturing Hub, where we're helping small and medium-sized manufacturers in Pittsburgh to de-risk the adoption of advanced robotics and automation technology. And my next slide, I'll talk a little bit more about what that process looks like. We're also building out an AI data foundry for robotics, working with our co-tenants Carnegie Mellon University, our local manufacturing extension partnership, and the broader ARM Institute consortium. And then we're building out an AI learning lab and experience center where we'll be offering some trainings to young adults who are graduated from high school, may have some education, and are interested in learning a little bit about what it might look like to get a career in advanced manufacturing. The ARM Institute does not do any training. It's unlikely in the future that we would do any training because we have so many partners and members who have already done a great job at designing training programs. So we often will refer people interested in training to those programs, and then we help our partners build their programs up and make sure that those programs are responsive to the needs of the advanced manufacturing industry. So our technology focus areas for that robotics manufacturing hub that I mentioned are looking at risk reduction for transition to the factory floor, helping manufacturers think through human-robot interaction, interoperability, flexible robotic work cells, and then AI and intelligent robotics systems. We've built out a whole metric around this and a very involved process. Our team who's built this out has been great. But basically what we're trying to do is help small and medium-sized manufacturers in Southwestern Pennsylvania assess the risk of automation and provide a path to adoption if that is appropriate for them. So I think the important thing to highlight here in the work that the ARM Institute is doing is that we are not trying to force robotics as a solution on every manufacturer, because we realize that that's not feasible for smaller manufacturers. It may not be feasible for you based on the type of thing that you are manufacturing. So we really walk the manufacturers that we're working with through a multi-step process where we evaluate their goals and processes, opportunities for automation, looking at simulating how that robot might be incorporated into their manufacturing line. What do the costs look like? Are you going to get a return on your investment if you invest in this massively expensive piece of equipment? And then if it's appropriate, we will connect the small and medium-sized manufacturers with some of our members like FANUC or Universal Robots, and connect them to help them then integrate their robots into the manufacturing line to help them be successful. And we're also setting up 4 maker spaces as part of our robotics manufacturing hub. And so those are going to be based in counties, for those of you familiar with southwestern Pennsylvania, outside of Allegheny County, which is where the city of Pittsburgh itself resides. And our goal with doing that is to really get those outside counties involved in this robotics renaissance that's happening in Pittsburgh. And the goal will be that the type of risk assessment that we're doing here, because this grant is focused on southwestern Pennsylvania right now, that ultimately it would be scalable and information that we could share out more broadly across the United States to make these types of tools available to manufacturers. So if this is something that's interesting to you, please feel free to reach out to me after this, and I can connect you with the team that's working on this and our tech team and provide you with some resources for how this might work. A quick plug here for membership, especially for small and medium-sized manufacturers who might be interested. There's a great opportunity here to partner with tech providers, larger national manufacturers, and other ARM Institute members to complete projects through our project calls that we release 3 to 4 times a year exclusively to our members. Members also have the ability to leverage the resulting intellectual property that's developed as a result of the project funding, whether or not you were part of that initial project team. So that's a really great benefit of membership, that you're able to leverage that IP. And you can also participate in road mapping on the tech side and on the EWD side to help inform future project calls and direction, new ARM Institute initiatives. We try to be really responsive to the needs of our industry members so that we can make sure that the types of intervention and funding that we're releasing are moving the needle for the industry. Speaking of that intellectual property, there already have been 120 tech projects. So if you join as a member, you have access to all of that library of knowledge already, which is a huge benefit. And then there's the networking. I already mentioned the member meeting is coming up in 3 weeks, but we also are starting to do increasingly over the year a series of intro calls so that new members, like I mentioned earlier, or smaller startup companies have the opportunity to introduce themselves to the broader ARM Institute network. You can imagine as we get more members, it's hard for everybody to know who a member is. So we're trying to be proactive about that throughout the year so that when you come to the member meeting in November, you know who you want to speak to. You have an idea of the players who are going to be there. If you have questions specifically about membership, again, you can feel free to reach out to me, or I can connect you with our membership team after the call. And then very quickly, our big education and workforce development initiative here at the ARM Institute is roboticscareer.org. We worked with our industry members to highlight 26 key robotics competencies that they would want to see people have at different levels of robotics technician jobs across advanced manufacturing. So we compiled those, and then we worked to filter all of the robotics related education training programs in the country and map them against those 26 competencies. So if you go onto roboticscareer.org, all of the training programs that show up there are going to be training programs that give students at least 3 skills in that 26-point competency framework. We've also developed a program endorsement where we audit those programs based for alignment with our 26 competencies, along with employment of the students after they graduate and other metrics to make sure that they're really providing a quality education. And so if you play around on roboticscareer.org and do some searching, you'll see that the top filtered results will have an ARM endorsed sticker next to them. And at this point, I will stop sharing my screen, and I would be happy to answer any questions that anybody has about roboticscareer.org or the ARM Institute in general.
Great, thank you very much, Emma, and hopefully you guys can see my screen. Do have some specific questions for ARM. One is, and I guess personally, I am interested in hearing, I was pleased to hear how the de-risking program is plans to be scalable.
Yeah.
I'll certainly be interested in hearing more about that, but specific to businesses now, with understanding that that's sort of a regional grant that you have, if a business is interested or wondering if they could benefit from robotics, is there something that is available that they can kind of find out from you guys?
Yeah, our Build Back Better team is working on putting together a toolkit that we can share out. Right now, we don't have the manpower, unfortunately, to do that type of in-depth work across the country, but we are working on putting together a toolkit so that manufacturers can kind of walk themselves through that process. And I can touch base with our Build Back Better team to see what the timeline would be for when that would be ready to be shared out as a resource.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Another question that came in specific to ARM is, are you exploring cobotics as a next generation of robotics?
Cobotics as in cobots, where people and robots like work alongside each other. Is that what the person is getting at?
Yeah, cobots, yes.
Yeah,
C-O-B-O-T.
absolutely. All of that falls into the framework of advanced manufacturing. So I believe some of the robots that we're even installing in our de-risking center at Mill 19, which is our headquarters, are cobots, so that manufacturers who come into our de-risking center have the opportunity to look at the various types of robots and automation that might be available to them.
Great. This is a question that may apply to next flex, is a general question, but are you exploring this question? I think, are you exploring digital engineering? We actually got this question during NextFlex's presentation, so
Over to you, Courtney.
I guess I'm a workforce person, so a little more nugget on digital engineering. So like using engineering tools, maybe Art can chime in.
Yeah, the answer would be yes. There's a lot of interest in things like digital twins, and there's some work going on as well in terms of having the capability, which is a great combination of ARM and NextFlex, to add certain capabilities for scanning onto robotic arms, so that we can digitally scan in three-dimensional surfaces, which then we can use that data to actually directly write electronic circuits on those surfaces.
great. Yeah, that's a hot topic, especially in when you consider working with DoD parts as well. So that's the questions that we have come in. I know one question or one comment was made that you didn't have access to the handouts. Hopefully, most of you can see that those handouts and click on that drop down and do the get the downloads of the slides. If we get, I'll make sure that we get them out specifically to the person that asked about them. But if I get enough questions, we'll just send it out en masse to everyone. But hopefully you can click on the handouts and get the drop down. And so I guess I would like to ask our panelists, do you have any closing thoughts or any more comments?
I'll just throw out there that, you have our email addresses and our information, and you want to learn more about NextFlex, by all means, give us a call.
Yeah, so great, thank you all. And this is just the first of at least two in this series. We've got another one tomorrow. If you are able to download the slides, there's a link to register directly to that, and you can also go to our website, 8amc.tech, and click on events and register there as well. We do we are always, all of us are all about continuous improvement, trying to make things better. So we want to hear from you about today's presentation, about the webinar. You will get a very short, easy, quick survey, 5-6 questions. One of those is just who you are. So that'll pop up at the end of the webinar, but it'll also come to you in an email recognizing that you may have something, another meeting right after this. So if you have questions about today, certainly you've got the contact information for the panelists and their organizations, but if you have questions for us about ADMC or anything else, you can, again, contact us through admc.tech or contact me directly at my email address there on the screen, and probably our office email address you've been getting information from. So Art, Courtney, Emma, I do appreciate your time today. And those who are here, whatever your role is in manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, whether it be as an industry partner, certainly appreciate the work that you do as part of specifically the DoD industrial base and national security. Appreciate your time here today. And for others, whatever your role is, we appreciate all that we're doing in this very important challenge and opportunity we have. So thanks, everyone. I hope everyone has a great day.
Brian.
Thank you, everyone.